Welcome to Crossroads, everybody. Good seeing you here in the auditorium, in the atrium, and joining us online. And before I launch into Love is Patient, let me just affirm everybody here and remind all of us, don't take a break from Crossroads this summer. Keep your participation up. Keep attending when you're in town. Keep volunteering. Keep inviting people every single week. That's what this series is about. Keep up your giving. You know, often in the summer, and it's happening this summer, we get in the middle, people are gone doing stuff, having summer fun. Attendance goes down, giving goes down. All of our expenses remain the same. In fact, they go up. We have kids camps, student activities. We've got the Global Leadership Summit coming. We've got improvements going on in our patio and around the church. We're getting ready to launch the Fort Collins campus in October. So keep up your giving to Daring Faith and to General Offering. And actually, Daring Faith giving, those projects, is way up, way to go. But often, that's the good news, often, even though we say give to Daring Faith over and above regular giving, often Daring Faith goes up, General Offering goes down. And that's what's happening. And I know you'd want to know about that. So keep up your giving to Daring Faith and to the General Offering, and we'll be able to hit the fall in a very sound financial position to do all these things that we really believe God's inspiring us to do. Okay, so I hope you'll do that. Well, let's talk about this subject of patience today. And I admit right out of the chute, I'm not the most patient person. I realized it this week when I was pushing the closed door button on an elevator. And I always, when I get in an elevator, I immediately hit the closed door button. Somebody said to me, hey, you know that door will close by itself if you wait a few seconds? I said, I know that, but who can wait for that? Can't wait for that. And actually, they have done a study on this, of course. They found type A's push the closed door button on an elevator more than anyone else. I actually ran out of patience doing research for this talk on the subject of patience this week. And I texted a friend of mine. I said to him, what do you become like when you lose your patience? He texted back within 30 seconds. He said, I become an angry, self-centered idiot that nobody wants to be around. And then he said, P.S., I'm real busy right now. Why are you interrupting me, you idiot? But I think we can all relate to that. We want things to happen the way we want them to happen, and then when they don't, we get frustrated, we get irritated. We lose our patience, and we become angry, self-centered idiots that nobody wants to be around. This is a true-to-life experience. Happened to Phyllis and I a number of summers ago. We were going to the University of Tennessee. I was going to be part of a 3-day conference talking about reasons to believe in God. And so we thought, let's make a road trip out of it. Let's go to Chicago, spend 3 days, then we'll go down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and be part of the conference. And a friend of mine here at Crossroads said, if you're going to Chicago, you better bring the club. You know what the club is? Remember that handy device you fit over the steering wheel of the car so nobody can take it? Nobody can steal it? And so I thought, you're right. I grew up in Chicago. We had cars stolen. Every bicycle I ever owned ended up stolen. So I got the club. We didn't use it in Nebraska. We didn't use it in Iowa. We got to Chicago to our hotel. I slapped the club on the steering wheel. I go, this thing's gonna be safe. We went into our hotel, and then we came out to dinner a few hours later, and I realized I didn't have the key to the club. I left it in Loveland. Nobody could take our car, not even me. So about 8 at night, I call a locksmith. He says, I'll be right over. I wait, 10 o'clock, the guy still isn't there. Still isn't there. I call him. He said, I'm not gonna be able to make it tonight. I'll be there first thing in the morning. We have to go to bed, no dinner, stuck in our hotel that night. Next morning, I get up bright and early. I'm waiting in the parking lot. Guy doesn't come. By 10 in the morning, guy still isn't there. I'm going, what? I go, why is this happening? Why would a person say they're coming and they're still not coming? Why? Why in the world would this happen? He's still not here. I started thinking, what is the guy? He's probably ready to come, and then he had to have another smoke or something. I'm not being judgmental, but everybody in Chicago smokes. Or I'm thinking, he goes, I got to have another cup of coffee, something like that. I started looking around the parking lot. I started noticing how many people had the club. None. Nobody had the club. None of them at all. Everybody's getting in their car. They're heading to the beach, to a Cubs game, to museums, out to breakfast. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's laughing. I'm going, why is this happening to me? Why am I experiencing this? And I'm going to teach teenagers how to believe in God, for heaven's sakes. I'm on a mission from God, and this is happening to me. And I'm getting angry about it now. I'm getting angry. I've crossed the line. I'm legally ticked off. My fuse is lit. My buttons are pushed. I'm getting hot under the collar. I'm getting steamed. Wondering, what am I going to do? In a situation like this. Why is this happening? After another hour, I find a maintenance guy at the hotel. I tell him about it. He goes and gets a drill, takes the club off in less than a minute. I call the locksmith. The guy still hasn't left. I say, don't bother coming now. I got it off. He says, hey, buddy, who's going to pay for the service call? I go, what service call? I've been waiting for you for 2 days. You're still not here. I said to Phyllis, this guy better not come now. I'll give him the club. I'll give him a Bible study he won't soon forget. But can you relate to that? I mean, in many ways, we have expectations how things are supposed to be, how things are going to happen. Then when they don't turn out the way we plan for them to happen, we get frustrated, we get irritated, we lose our patience. We cross over the line into the land. We're an angry, self-centered idiot that nobody wants to be around. I mean, is patience difficult for you? Is it difficult for you? I'm not sure, but put yourself in these situations. Ask yourself if you're a patient person. Like you're going to the grocery store. You got a busy night. You got to pick up some groceries. You grab a grocery cart. You get the one with the wheel that drags. You load it up with groceries. Then you look, all the lines are full. You finally see a line, 2 people in it. You get in that line. It's moving slow. You realize the checker is new on the job. His hands are trembling. He's got sweat on his forehead. He's not sure what to do. By the time he gets to you, the cash register tape runs out. He's not sure how to fix it. You're delayed. How do you respond? You're going out to dinner, say. Going out to dinner. Taking the family, taking your wife, your husband. You're going with a special friend. You're going to your favorite restaurant. You fasted for 2 days. You're going to gorge yourself. You go in the restaurant. They give you a nice booth. They give you the menu. Then you look around. This place is jammed. Then you find out there are 2 waiters short that night. Slow service. You're sitting in a booth. All you got's water. You're hungry as a buffalo in winter. You got water and a menu. You start gnawing on the menu. You're delayed. How do you respond? You're late for work. Let's try this one. You're late for work. There's road construction. Cars are everywhere. You think, I'm going to be late for sure. Then you think of a shortcut you know about. You're going to take that shortcut, little known shortcut. Only Daniel Boone knows about this shortcut. You shoot down side streets. You pass slower cars. You think, I'm going to make it on time. Then you hear a clanging sound. A train. You're going to be delayed. How do you respond? Don't you wish in moments like that, you could just take a pill, a patience pill? You just mellow out. You're starting to get frustrated. You're losing your patience. Don't you wish you could take a pill? It'd have to be fast acting because impatient people, they don't want a slow acting pill. Got to be fast acting, and it would just mellow you out. That's the way I'd like to have something like that. But that's when my faith gets tested. At times like that, that's the greatest test of my Christian faith in the mainstreams of life. Like I have no trouble being a positive, patient person. When I'm up sitting in my office, I got books around me. There's silence. I got the sunshine coming in the windows on the west side and the Rocky Mountains in the background. I have no trouble being a patient person. But those delayed flights, those grocery store lines, those busy restaurants, road construction, trains, stuff like that, that's what tests my faith right there. The ability to accept delays graciously, calmly, quietly, understandingly, with a smile, that's what patience is. That's what it is. And I'm going to talk about how we can grow to become more patient people. And I'm going to do that in a moment. So just be patient. Be patient. I'm going to get to that. Well, let's look at 1 Corinthians 13. Verse 4, it's up on the side screens. It's in the message notes. Let's read it out loud together. Love is patient. One more time. Love is patient. Once more so it sinks in. Love is patient. It means it's loving to be patient. It's unloving to be impatient. When I'm patient with my grandkids, I'm being loving. When I'm patient with Phyllis, other people, I'm being loving. When I'm impatient, I'm being unloving. And the word patience in Greek was the word makrothumos. Okay, it was made up of two words, macro, meaning long, distant, or far, and thumos, where we get our word thermometer, means heat, passion, translated often rage, anger. Patience means this, write it down, long-tempered. We're long-tempered, a patient person is that. Basically means we handle our anger slowly. Means it takes a long time for us to get hot. Long time for us to boil. That's what patience means. You got a long fuse. You don't blow up at people and situations if you're patient. Patience, the ability to accept delays and disappointments and refuse to be hassled by it. You cool it when other people curse it. No pills, no booze, no hocus pocus. Just smile at those setbacks in an understanding way. And I got a feeling we all need to grow in patience. Somewhat. I think most of us do. And so I'm going to talk about that now. Talk about how can we grow to become more patient people. And I'll draw your attention to what Paul wrote. Colossians 3, verse 12. Paul says here's how you do it. You clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Sounds easy. Paul says, you just put it on. Sounds easy. Paul wrote in Galatians 5. He said, God is so committed to working in our lives to make us more patient people that God has commissioned the Holy Spirit to work full time to develop this complicated virtue in all of us. Look at Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit, that's the work of the Spirit, is love. Love in our lives. Joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And that's what it's going to take for some of us. It's going to take the Spirit of God working full time to develop this virtue inside of us. But there's some things we can do to aid the Holy Spirit. And I'll give you 3 quick ones. Here's the first one. Recall how patient God is with you. That's the first thing to do. Just remember how patient God is with you and has been. If you're a Christ follower, how patient God has been with you before you followed Christ with your life. And how patient God has been with you and with me. And I'm not new at this. How patient God continues to be with me. I remember that. Impatient people tend to grow in the ability to be patient when they recall just how patient God has been with them. And this concept shouldn't surprise us. Look at 1 John 4:19. It says, we love others because God first loved us. When we experience the love of God in our lives and we're overflowing with that love of God, that should make us more loving to people in our lives. Forgiveness works the same way. Take an unforgiving person. All of a sudden, they desperately need forgiveness. And somebody graciously forgives them. That ought to make that unforgiving person a more forgiving person in the future. Same with patience. When a person with a short fuse, high expectations, comes face to face with just how patient God has been with them and continues to be, that should have a melting effect. That should mellow us out a bit. At least it should. And we should become more patient. And when I think about the character of God, whenever anybody says to me, John, what is God like? Oh, in a sound bite, what is your God like? You know where I direct people? I direct them to Psalm 103, verse 8. It's up on the screen. I direct them to this, where it says, for the Lord your God is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness. I love this verse. It captures the essence of God. Our God is compassionate. God feels stuff deeply. God understands the needs of people. God understands your needs, the needs of people in this world. And God moves towards people with empathy, deep empathy. And it says God is gracious. That means God is merciful. God is kind. God is gentle, understanding. God understands the human condition. God understands our problems. God understands your problems. And in the last part of the verse, it says, he's abounding in loving kindness. God is overflowing with a desire to favor and bless your life. There's nothing God wants more than to bless your life. And then in the middle of the verse, though, it says that we can get God angry, actually. It says that we defy God long enough. We shake our fist at God. We ignore the needs of this world. We do nothing about the deep needs of this world. It says God will get angry. It's not out of control anger. It's righteous anger. But it's anger nonetheless. But get this, the verse says God's slow to anger. Means God's never quick to get angry. God's not trigger happy. God doesn't have a short fuse. This is the fundamental demeanor of God. God is compassionate, gracious, kind, overflowing with love, and slow to become angry. And this has helped me. This has helped me on a daily basis understand what God is like. This has helped me to frame the basic demeanor of God on a daily basis. But it's done more than that. You know what else it's done? It's helped me to understand what my fundamental demeanor should be on a daily basis. Because if this is who God is, and I'm a child of God, I'm created in the image of God, as Genesis 1 says, and the Holy Spirit is working full time to make me more like God, what kind of person should I be becoming? I should be becoming increasingly compassionate. I should be growing in mercy and grace. I should be slow to anger, at least slower to get angry than I used to be. And I should be overflowing with loving kindness towards people. And so should you if you're a Christ follower. If I continue to have a short fuse, quick to anger, if I'm a trigger-happy person, if I can't sit through a 30-second stoplight without becoming a jerk, what does that say about me? At least it says I got some growing to do in the area of patience. I've got some growing to do. Anybody here got some growing to do when it comes to patience? How about by show of hands? How many people? Raise them up real high. Come on, raise them up. People are slow. Get them up. I got a sermon to preach here. Put your hands up. That's right. My clothes are going out of style by the time people get their hands up. We got to move on. Move on. Number one, if you want to grow in patience, come to grips with how patiently God has treated you. Then return that favor to other people in your life. Here's the second thing. We got to remember, people are not finished products. That's the second thing to remember. I got to remember everybody around me, everybody around you. People that tax your patience, they're not finished products. Everybody we relate to is under construction. I can't expect perfection from you, nor should you expect perfection from me. We've got to cut each other slack. None of us are finished products. None of us. God's not finished with any of us. We're in process, which is why Paul says this. 1 Thessalonians 5:14. We urge you, encourage the timid, help the weak. Be patient with everyone. Look at Ephesians 4, verse 2. Paul says, be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. God isn't through with anybody yet. We're all growing. We're all growing slowly. And look at what Paul writes, Romans 15:7. He says, accept one another then, just as Christ accepted you. And how does Christ accept you? Unconditionally. That's how Christ accepts you. Unconditionally. The way you are, with open arms. Question is, are you an accepting person? That's the question. Are you an accepting person? Or are you always trying to change people? Are you obsessed with fixing people? You know, Les Parrott writes about a kitchen experience that I can relate to. And I've had this experience with my wife, Phyllis, for years. And being left-handed is her excuse. But for years, I noticed this years ago, she uses a knife the wrong way. She cuts fruit with a knife the wrong way. Everybody knows, you know, if you cut fruit, everybody knows this. You cut fruit in an upward motion. I saw her this week doing this with bananas over a bowl of cereal. You cut fruit in an upward motion like God intended, then the banana slices fall neatly into the bowl of cereal. You know, everybody knows this. But if you cut in a downward motion, not only do you risk cutting your fingers off, but those banana slices, they end up all over the place. Some are stuck to the knife, others are all over the counter. It's chaos. Bible's clear on this kind of thing. It's clear on it. I worried for years. I worried for years that my kids would grow up cutting fruit the wrong way. I thought there'd be fruit cutting dysfunction in our family forever. Forever. And I've tried to correct Phyllis. In love. In love, of course, I have. But do you think she appreciates it? She is going to cut fruit the wrong way for the rest of her life. But I'm not going to leave her. I'm not going to leave her over. I'm going to accept her, even though she cuts fruit the wrong way. I'm going to love her, accept her, and let go of my need to make sure she cuts fruit the right way. And you know the point. You know what the point is? You got people in your life, they cut fruit the wrong way. You have people like that. People, maybe they talk too much. Maybe they don't express affection to you the way you want them to. Maybe they got irritating habits. Maybe they got character flaws. Maybe they turned whining and complaining into an art form. Maybe they try to manipulate you. How does Christ accept you? Unconditionally. Christ accepts you with open arms. And Paul says here, that's how we're to accept people in our life. And when the writers of the Bible talk about accepting people and loving people the way they are, that doesn't mean we tolerate any behavior that's inappropriate, damaging, or destructive. There are people in our lives that sometimes we have to confront that kind of behavior. But the general teaching of the Bible, general teaching, is that we ought to adopt a posture of patience and loving kindness towards people, accepting one another in love. We got to remember, people are not finished products. I'll give you the third one, last one. This will help you be more patient. Reflect before reacting. We got to stop and think before we react. Pause. Don't react immediately. Look at Proverbs 12:16. Let's read this out loud together. Fools show their annoyance at once. Let's read Proverbs 14:29. Whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered shows great foolishness. Let's read one more out loud. Proverbs 29:11. A rebel shouts in anger. A wise man holds his temper and cools it. A wise woman holds her temper and cools it. Do you know that phrase, cool it, comes right out of the Bible? That's where it came from, right there. Proverbs 29:11. Cool it. And without oversimplifying, patient people have mastered a skill that the rest of us have some work to do on yet. And here's the skill. You can write it down. The skill that needs to be mastered, if we're going to be patient, loving people, here's the skill. It's self-restraint. That's the skill. Patient people, they have the same amount of irritation, frustrations about stressful situations as the rest of us, but they make a different choice in these emotion-packed moments. They choose self-restraint instead of acting out. They do what the book of Proverbs challenges all of us to do. They control their spirit instead of unleashing it and letting it wreak havoc. Social scientists sometimes call this practicing impulse control. That's what they do. And babies aren't born with impulse control skills, right? We know that. When they're mad, they scream. No control. When they're angry about something, they don't get what they want, they scream, they make your life miserable. When they want to release a bodily function, they just let it fly. No impulse control skills. So parents have to teach them. Got to teach children how to ask politely for something. Got to teach kids that we have to wait for certain things. We got to teach kids that it's okay. It's okay. It'll be okay. When the parents' answer to something is a big fat no. And you know where I'm going with this. Some adults lack impulse control skills. They do. Some adults do. They need to grow in impulse control in stressful situations. We got to learn to exercise self-restraint if we're going to get better at being patient, loving people. And it requires a lot of self-talk, at least on my part. Self-talk. And that comes from the Bible, Psalm 15, verse 2, that talks about speaking the truth in your heart. In your heart. And you know what I've learned? This is what I've learned over the years. When I'm in a stressful situation where my patience is being tested, do you know what my first objective is? When my patience is being tested, my first grand objective, here it is, do absolutely nothing. That's my objective. Do absolutely nothing. Don't respond. Don't respond to my impulses. Do it tempt me to become sarcastic or say something, do something, send a text, write an email, hit send right away. Just hold back. I've had to work a lot on self-restraint over the years because I'm a fairly passionate person who reacts to things if I'm not careful. So I get in a situation and my patience is being tested. I have to say to myself, I go, stop, John, stop. Don't be a jerk. Don't sin. Just stop. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Don't roll your eyes. No gestures. Don't do anything. And when I've achieved that, through the help of the Holy Spirit, I give myself a pep talk. I go, way to go, way to go. There is a God. There is, way to go. Way to go. You held back right there. That's different than what you would have done 15 years ago. Way to go. And I give myself a little positive pep talk. Self-restraint. Exercise impulse control. And you're probably going to have to do that this week. You hear a talk on patience. God's going to put you in situations where you're going to have to put this all in place. And what's that situation going to be this week for you? Where's your patience going to be tested? Maybe it's on the job at work. Maybe it's with your finances. You know, you've been sticking to a budget, but you're getting impatient about how that's going to be growing and paying things off. And you're tempted to just lose patience and just go back to your old ways. Maybe you live with a long-term illness. Maybe you have a difficult person in your life. Maybe it's somebody in your family you're going to have to exercise patience with this week. Maybe you're frustrated because you want to make your marriage work. You're willing to change. Your partner's not willing to change. Hopefully, reflecting before reacting, any reacting. Exercising self-restraint. And then, when things calm down, you have a mature follow-up conversation later. Don't just ignore it. Like I could have had with the locksmith. I could have, in a very non-judgmental way, I could have said, oh, sir, I'm just curious. Why would you be charging me for this call when you haven't come? I mean, I could have done that in a very non-judgmental way. And love would have won the day. So remember this week. You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to say and do things that you're going to have to cycle back to later and apologize for. You don't have to make a mess at work, or you don't have to make a mess at home because of impatience. Loving, patient people, they get better at self-restraint. Let's bow our heads together. And I want to ask you to consider being patient with people this week in your life. I want to ask you to recall just how patient God has been with you. And consider that and let it just melt your spirit as you remember that. Remind yourself that people are in process. Everybody's under construction. Cut people in your life slack this week. And stay in touch with the patience that God has extended to you. Allow that grace that you've experienced to enter into your relationships at home and business, even here at church. And when that kind of grace of God flows through us, it pleases God. And God, there isn't a person here that doesn't struggle with impatience from time to time. We have all said words we wish we could take back. We've done things we wish we could undo. And we need your forgiveness. Help us to be slow to anger. And if you want to break through that, just say, God, I don't want to be an angry person. Pray to God, say, I want to be a loving person. And I choose to expect your love and your grace to not only forgive me, but may your love and your grace direct and guide me in my relationships this week. And if you've never invited Jesus Christ into your life, why don't you do that today? Just say, Jesus, come into my life. Thank you for your love and your grace. Thank you that you accept me. Make yourself real to me. In Jesus' name.